Somewhere in the depths of the old bunker, under a layer of cracked concrete and rusted steel doors, was the center of the former military laboratory. Once the place had been bustling with life, but now it was darkness, silence, and the frozen heaviness of the past. In this cold, metallic crypt of human ambition, Jack Harper, a former Secret Service agent, walked down the stairs. His footsteps echoed rumblingly in the dark tunnel. The noise seemed to come from his very consciousness, a vibration of fear, as if even the walls knew he was facing more than just the remnants of a military program. He stopped at the heavy door leading into the core of the complex. His hand froze for a moment at the knob. His mind flashed back to the last words of his superior. This is not just a failed program. It's a mistake mankind should never have made. Jack thought he'd already been through the worst of it. The secrets he'd uncovered in his life had ruined families, changed governments, and fueled wars. But the Lazarus Project was different. He couldn't put into words exactly what it was that caused him primal fear. There was something unnatural about this program, ironic in its essence, an attempt by the power-obsessed to raise the dead. He stepped through the threshold, entering a large, almost sterile room that smelled of stale chemicals. In the distance, behind the glass of the observation room, stood Lazarus, a man who had once been one of the best scientists in the world, but now had become a monster, locked in death. Lazarus met his gaze. He seemed surprisingly calm, cold, even unemotional. That kind of calm, which Jack had learned not to trust, was dangerous. "Harper," he said quietly, "come to destroy something you couldn't understand?" "It's not something anyone should have realized, Lazarus," Jack replied. "It's something that should have been stopped years ago." The scientist bowed his head slightly, his thin lips quivering in a barely perceptible grin. "You still can't see. They're not dead. Their bodies have adapted. Eternal life through rebirth. That's the future humanity deserves. Haven't you ever dreamed of immortality? You've killed hundreds for your experiments." Jack stepped forward. "You're going to kill more if you don't stop it now. What's your number, Jack?" Lazarus looked at him with a penetrating gaze. "How many lives have your mistakes cost? Your actions for the sake of the country, for the sake of the world? How many people have you buried believing in the greater good? I gave them a second chance." Harper remained silent. He was no stranger to the cost of human life, but he had a fundamental difference. He didn't seek power over death. He didn't play God. "You didn't give them a second chance. You broke their souls," he finally said, feeling his own words ringing in the void around him. Translated with DeepL.com, free version. Lazarus raised his hand, moving his fingers slowly, as if he were about to draw something in the air. Silhouettes began to move behind the glass, the very same silhouettes that had once been living people, but were now mere shadows of their former lives. Their skin was dull and torn, their faces distorted by the agony of an unnatural existence. They didn't just walk, they hunted. Their consciousness no longer belonged to them. "They are free of pain," Lazarus continued with fanatical obsession. "Death is a weakness. I have shown them a new way. I opened the gateway to immortality." Jack felt a cold sweat run down his spine. These creatures were more than just reanimated bodies. Their eyes, empty, staring into him, seemed infinitely deep, as if reflecting the very nature of their creation, something ancient, dark, living beneath a shell of science. "They don't feel pain anymore, Lazarus," he said quietly, his voice barely breaking through the weight of realization. "They don't feel anything at all." Lazarus only shrugged, his indifference frightening. "Feelings are an illusion. You can't understand them if you cling to your old, moral perception." Jack moved closer to the control panel, knowing that every move he made was bringing him closer to the final line. He couldn't take it anymore. In the back of his mind, a sense of hopelessness was growing, as if everything he knew, everything he'd fought for, had become meaningless in the face of this manic quest for immortality. "It's over, Lazarus," he said, starting the self-destruct program. "No one else will be hurt. Do you really think you can just destroy everything?" Lazarus whispered with an icy grin. "I've become something that can't be killed." But Jack knew the key wasn't in destroying the physical. Project Lazarus was more than just an experiment. It was something ancient, darker, and deeper than could be imagined. It may not have been a scientific discovery in its fullest form, it was a touch of something that was never meant to come to light. Jack knew that the final battle would not be in a direct confrontation. It would be in how far he could go to destroy not only the experiment, but the very knowledge it revealed. He would have to erase from humanity's memory this opportunity, the opportunity to disrupt the natural order. The launch system activated. Lazarus watched Jack like a teacher frustrated by a negligent student. "You will destroy them," Lazarus said, looking at the victims of his experiments. "But their minds will live on. And one day, they will find a way out. We always find a way out, Jack. We are immortal." An alarming sound echoed throughout the bunker. Jack pressed the last button. "Goodbye, Lazarus." And darkness swallowed everything.